Diminishing returns. That's the point we're at with video games. Whoa, these sure are some nice fucking graphics on your garbage movie slop third-person over-the-shoulder camera shooty game. That's how I like my loading screens disguised as exciting squeezing through tight crevices. Nice and realistic. But think about it. Are there any games coming out on your PS5 that couldn't have been made for the PS3 by sacrificing a little bit of graphical fidelity? Considering they keep releasing the exact same game every 5 years and charging their, lovely and highly intelligent clientele $70 plus tax plus tip plus a written promise that they'll buy it again in 2 years for it? I guess not. It's hard to imagine today, but for a good 20 years from the 80s to the 90s, each console generation represented a real leap in technology that allowed not only for better graphics, but for increased complexity in gameplay. The 16-bit era was when the technological leap really came to be front and center in the marketing strategy of gaming companies. The bit wars or whatever, I'm not gonna waste your time telling you a story you heard a trillion times already. The point is, Super Nintendo games were all about showing off how the new hardware could make games bigger, better, and more complex. And what better way to do that than by taking games everyone already knew and loved from the old Nintendo Entertainment System and reimagining them completely. The result is a series of releases that are basically retellings of games that already existed, made to look like their predecessors at a basic level. So the contrast brought up by that which was only possible on the new machine would speak for itself. These games were closer to reboots than remakes or sequels. They told deliberately similar stories in similar settings, but greatly expanded upon the original idea. A Link to the Past, Super Castlevania 4, Earthbound, Mystery of the Emblem, Super Metroid, Mega Man X. Mega Man X came out in 1993 in Japan, and at this point, despite being only 6 years old, Mega Man was already a very well-established franchise, with close to yearly releases. Mega Man 5 had just come out the previous year. To put this into perspective, Super Mario Bros. Launched 2 years before the original Mega Man, and by the time Mega Man X released, there were only 4 mainline Mario games, 3 on the NES and 1 on the Super Nintendo. Mega Man had 6 games on the NES. Capcom was shitting out Mega Man games like they ate Indian street food the night before. Maybe that decade they spent later pretending like the franchise didn't exist was to make up for it. Point is, Mega Man had a formula, a simple one. Mega Man can jump and shoot lemons. He defeats a robot, he gets a new thing to shoot. Each robot is weak to the thing he can get from a different robot. Considering these games kept selling year after year, you could say it was a successful formula. Mega Man X wasn't trying to change it, but add to it. And it did so by adding layers of extra complexity while keeping things simple on the surface. In Mega Man, you jump and shoot. You kill 8 robots collecting their weapons along the way. You get to an endgame stage where you refight all of those before taking on the final boss. You can use that same description for Mega Man X, but while that paints a pretty accurate picture of classic Mega Man, it's a rather simplistic description of X. So let's get started already, shall we? Oh yeah, you can subscribe and like the video and leave a comment now. It's okay. Mega Man X has possibly one of the most well-known intro levels in video games. From the get-go, X looks, feels, and controls a lot like Mega Man did in the classic series. Jump, shoot lemons. The biggest difference you might notice from the beginning is that holding down the lemon button causes X to charge his attack. This is not a Mega Man X innovation, it was introduced in Mega Man 4, but I, like most people I would imagine, think of Mega Man 2 when I think of the classic series. There are 2 charge levels from the start. The way it works is hold shooty button, shoot large shotty. It does more damage, it's pretty intuitive. Charge shots are not always the best way to deal with things in Mega Man X, but I developed a bad habit from playing Mega Man ZX too much, so I pretty much entirely ignored the basic lemons, but they are often useful here. The level is famous for being a great example of a non-intrusive, intuitive tutorial. Everyone knows about the way it introduces introduces the new technique of wall jumping, but it bears repeating. By trapping X in a ditch and making sure he would touch the wall and slide down by placing debris next to it, the game would show the player that the wall is interactable, and lacking any other real options, he would learn to climb the wall by himself. This has sort of become a symbol of good level design on the same level as the first screen from Super Mario Bros. In large part, I believe, thanks to Ego Raptor's famous Sequelitis video on it. You teach the player to play the game without expecting them to go read the manual. What a concept. It's almost as if that's what good games are supposed to do. One aspect of this game I really like and find to be very forward-thinking is the fact that it allows the player to customize the controls. Personally, I'm a 0/ZX GigaChad who likes his Mega Man looking like Moe anime instead of stupid blocky Transformer toys. So I couldn't play Mega Man X when I first tried it years ago because the dash wasn't set to L and shoot wasn't set to R. As it turns out, it was my own retardation that was keeping me from enjoying the game, because you can, in fact, change the controls to the objectively correct and superior control scheme. No offense if you like playing it with default controls, obviously. Having free thumbs is definitely something I can respect. If anything, that's the magic of customizable controls. You can set it to something stupid like every fucking action to the face buttons. Oh wait, that's just default. That's a problem I have with Super Mario World, for instance. How the fuck am I supposed to juggle between three important movement-related actions when they're all mapped to the face buttons? Why isn't the spin mapped to R? They don't even use that button for anything. I can manage two face buttons at the same time. Like, obviously I'm holding Y for running and I rest my thumb on B for jumping, but if I want to spin with A, I have to very awkwardly position my thumb so that the side presses down on A, while not applying enough pressure to B to count as an input, and not letting go of Y. It's horrible. Similarly, with the default moveset in Mega Man X, it's very hard to, for example, charge or shot while dashing, as those actions are mapped to Y and A respectively, meaning they're at opposite ends of the controller's face button area, with the jump button, B, between them. I feel like using two face buttons for crucial actions is the sweet spot. The remaining two should be reserved for the likes of item use and general interaction with the game world. Thankfully, Mega Man X makes it so that regardless of whether you prefer to play the game right or wrong, you can enjoy yourself. And ain't that what really matters in the end? Too bad the cartridge didn't have an internal battery, and so every time I restart the game I have to go fix the controls again. This is something the Legacy Collection could have fixed but didn't for some reason. That reason is laziness, by the way. Oh yeah, the Legacy Collection. It's a collection of Mega Man X games from 1 to 4. It's pretty self-explanatory. Back to the game. The intro stage is clearly trying to show off as much as possible. Enemies can destroy parts of the stage. X has to fight these B mini-bosses that take up half the fucking screen. Parts of the floor crumble under X's feet, and then there are the cutscenes. It's weird looking back, but Mega Man X was a huge leap in storytelling for the Mega Man series. After fighting a flying car carrier, X is ambushed by this guy in purple armor named Vile. He's evil if you can tell. Should have given him horns and made him twirl his mustache and kick a puppy or something while we're at it. I think there's a chance someone might have not figured it out as it is. He kicks the absolute shit out of X and we get to actually control him throughout the entire process. You know, I never thought about this before, but Super Metroid took a lot of cues from Mega Man X, didn't it? I mean, I have zero proof whatsoever that anyone on the Super Metroid team even played this, but let's be honest, they probably did. The wall jump thing where you trap the player in a pit until they figure it out, the unwinnable intro boss fight. Holy shit. Anyway, I think this is really cool. Don't just tell me X got his butt kicked. Let me feel it. It's great, make it personal. This is something only a video game can do, so make good use of it. Video games should use their unique strengths to tell stories, not ape movies or whatever. A cool red guy with long blonde hair shows up and saves X. This is Zero. He's the coolest. He's red and he has a sword. Everyone knows red is cooler than blue. It's the color of blood, and therefore it's the second edgiest color, behind only black, which is the color of the empty void of my soul. Purple is pretty edgy too, but it doesn't make the top 2 because it doesn't feature in Shadow the Hedgehog's color scheme, so it loses points for that. What were we talking about again? Oh, Zero, yeah. His X's cooler friend that's supposed to represent how strong you, the player, can become in the future. He's so cool he eventually got his own series where he wears diapers and somehow pulls it off. X cries about being too weak. Zero tells him to just be himself or something, and now we're at the level selection screen without much of an explanation. So, following the formula set by the very first Mega Man game, we can now tackle any of the 8 main levels in the game in any order we want. The order in which we do these is very important and where most of the game's addicted nature comes from. It's a matter of finding the path of least resistance, or alternatively, challenging yourself. It's a simple system that's very effective and elegant. For a series of linear levels, Mega Man X turns out to be very open-ended and multi-layered. Unfortunately, for the first level, there's really only one right answer. There are a few ways in which X can become stronger in this game. The most obvious one is the mechanic imported from the classic series. Kill robot, get robot weapon. Weapons mostly serve as ways to deal with the other bosses more easily. Each of them is weak to another's weapon. They sometimes are also used in environmental puzzles. The second way is by increasing X's health pool. This is done by finding either hard tanks, which increase his health bar by a few points, or sub-tanks, which create reserves that can be accessed from the pause menu to refuel his health on demand. The third and more interesting one is by finding capsules that grant X new abilities. These are very impactful, and one of these is the reason why I'd say doing Chill Penguin's stage first is the objectively correct choice for pretty much any playthrough that's not a self-imposed challenge run. About halfway across this quite short and easy stage is the capsule containing the leg upgrade. It's quite literally in the middle of the way. You can't even skip this without deliberately abusing glitches. It allows X to dash. This is the second new addition to the game that I think really sets it apart from the classic series, together with the wall jumping. The dash really speeds up the game a lot. Not having it makes it painful to replay the intro stage every time. Not only does it give X a burst of speed, jumping while performing it maintains the momentum, allowing for much faster and longer jumps. This also works in conjunction with the wall jump. The game is almost unplayable without it. I can sort of appreciate that they held this from us for the intro stage to clearly drive home the parallels with the classic series, and so we can appreciate it even more when we get it, but I'm not sure it was worth it. Starting with Mega Man X2, the dash is an integral part of X's moveset from the start. And part of me wishes that were the case here. It would certainly help make the first stage choice a little less of a no-brainer. Also, if a new player didn't know about it, which I'm sure many didn't, especially back in the day, God knows for how long they would be stuck with the sluggish basic moveset while banging their heads against the wall trying to get through any number of other stages before they finally happen across this upgrade. At the very least, I feel like the dash should be obtained before the level select screen, maybe during the intro stage. That would also serve as a way to teach players about the upgrade system. A little further after the lag upgrade capsule is this abandoned mech. X can jump on it and take control. The mech protects X from damage, but only has a melee attack. It can be dropped mid-air for an extra jump, sort of like Yoshi, but with fewer ethical implications. X can't ride it forever either. Eventually it'll have to be abandoned because it can't wall jump. The final stretch of the level features these robots that throw snowballs. From off-screen they'll go down slopes towards us, causing them to accrue more snow and get bigger, which is yet another pretty cool interaction that would likely be hard to achieve in the older games. Once we close the distance, they'll simply chuck the snowballs in X's direction. And then we reach our first real boss. Chill Penguin is neither brain dead easy nor too hard. He's manageable with only X's base form, and this is yet another reason why this is obviously supposed to be the first level anyone should finish. He's decently complex and has some zoning tools such as the ice statues he creates, as well as an invulnerability state in which he slides across the floor. What he doesn't have is a good answer to wall jumping, so the fight is mostly about waiting for an opportunity while hanging from the walls. This might sound like criticism, but wall climbing was a new mechanic at that point, so rewarding players for making use of it makes sense. When it goes down, we get the ice shotgun, which is a weapon that actually does have a few important use cases throughout the game. It shoots a projectile that'll split in three when it hits a wall, so it has pretty good screen coverage. It can later be upgraded to create an ice platform X can ride in order to reach certain areas, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The second stage we'll tackle this playthrough is Storm Eagles. The music is the best in the game. The stage focuses heavily on precision platforming and requires a lot of wall jumping. These claw enemies keep coming at X as we try to make our way up through these moving platforms, and they can be really fucking annoying. They won't simply damage X, instead they grab him and we have to mash buttons to struggle away from it, which usually results in falling all the way down into the pit below. I eventually learned the charge shot's hitbox actually extends a bit over X's head, so that's pretty useful here. If we dash jump off the very top of this first moving platform section to the left, we'll find our first heart tank. There are 8 of these in the game, and collecting all of them doubles X's initial health bar. The level also hides a few secrets behind these fuel tanks that we can destroy by shooting them a lot. The problem is that there's absolutely no visual indication at all that our lemons are doing anything as we shoot them. We're supposed to just keep belting away at them until they blow up, and it doesn't really feel intuitive at all. It's behind one of these that we find the helmet upgrade. It's one of the least impressive ones. Basically, it gives us access to a few hidden areas by allowing us to break a few very specific blocks by banging X's head against them. It's very situational and not very interesting. We also find our first sub-tank here. Getting health drops while our health bar is full will instead fill any sub-tanks in our inventory. We can access that health at any time from the pause menu. The rest of the level consists of beams we have to climb over by wall jumping and floating platforms that'll fall almost immediately as X lands on them. Eventually we make our way to an airship. It blows up as we enter it and we meet the stage boss on top of the wreckage. Storm Eagle is... well, I think he's not that great, to be honest. He has this wind attack that just forces us to dash in his direction for a few seconds, and then he spends most of the time dashing diagonally at us from off screen. Once you get the timing, it's really not difficult to get out of the way and hit him with a charge shot each time. I guess the wind thing is here again, because the dash was a new thing and Capcom wanted to be sure the player got used to using it. Defeating Storm Eagle unlocks the Storm Tornado, which is a pretty useful weapon actually, with good damage and range. Next we're doing Chameleon. People who actually know how to play this game usually leave this stage for at least after getting the boomerang cutter, because the boss is actually kind of annoying without it. But I just sort of entered it on a whim. It takes place in a forest of mechanical trees. I wonder how that works. Is this where Clockwork Oranges come from? The background looks pretty good. Speaking of which, I don't find this game to be terribly graphically impressive overall. I just think it looks kind of flat. It's not like it looks bad per se, but to me it looks like an early SNES game, not one from late 1993 from a major developer. We don't even have to look at the likes of Yoshi's Island or Chrono Trigger or fucking Donkey Kong Country, which are some of the most graphically impressive games on the system, but that have the benefit of being released closer to the end of its life cycle. I mean, look at Super Castlevania 4. This is a game from 1991. It has so much detail in its pixel art, it looks beautiful. By 1994, just a few short months after Mega Man X released, we got Final Fantasy VI and fucking Super Metroid. The difference is night and day. Super Metroid benefits so much from its immersive art direction. The world feels alive. You could say Mega Man X was going for a more cartoony art style, but even then, look at Yoshi's Island or Kirby's Dream Land 3. Of course, graphics don't make a game. Hell, Earthbound is one of my favorite games of all time and it looks like absolute vomit. It's just that for the longest time I thought Mega Man X was a 1991 game because it just looks so unimpressive. It does have a few cool effects here and there and a few nice backgrounds like the forest we were just talking about, but for a game that's entirely built on the idea of showing off how a Node series can benefit from more powerful hardware, I find it strange that the graphics were apparently this much of an afterthought. Anyway, enemies in this starting area are kind of annoying. They're really short and either hide underground or jump around all over the place. Eventually we make our way to a cave. By using a dash jump we can go over the entrance and into a hidden room where a mini boss awaits. It's a fat robot and a really uninteresting fight. Basically its head is the only vulnerable part of its body. We need to jump and release a charge shot to hit it, then dash under it as it jumps towards us. Repeat this for like 4 hours and we're rewarded with a new upgrade. It's a really good one at least. The body upgrade effectively doubles our health by halving all damage we take. Neat. Back into the cave we find these rock enemies that fall from the ceiling and are best dealt with by simply not dealing with them at all. Wait for them to fall and jump over. Then, beyond a few very resistant woodpeckers and a brief mech suit section, we reach Sting Chameleon himself. As I mentioned before, Sting Chameleon is really easy to deal with if you're intelligent and get the boomerang cutter before coming here. I didn't, so we'll just have to make do with what we have. This is one of the most annoying stage bosses in the game to do with normal Buster. The biggest problem is that it's invulnerable for most of the fight. You know chameleons, right? They camouflage. That's their whole thing. But did you know they actually phase out of existence when they camouflage? You can no longer hit the fucker as soon as it starts disappearing, even though you can clearly see him. Then he'll move somewhere, and as soon as he becomes vulnerable, he'll attack with his tongue up to 3 times in quick succession. And if we're in range, which we'll probably be because he keeps cornering us, it's really hard to dodge. Regardless of whether or not we hit him, he'll almost immediately disappear again. If we're lucky, he'll move to one of the upper corners of the room and start shooting spikes from his tail that are easier to dodge. You can instead shake the screen and cause spikes to fall from the ceiling, and these are more of a pain to deal with. Keep in mind a fully charged shot at this point does 2 damage out of 32, so it takes a while. The weapon we get out of this is the creatively named Chameleon Sting. It shoots out 3 projectiles in a fan shape. Not terribly interesting. Flame Mammoth's stage takes place in a factory. What's cool about it is that it changes based on whether or not we've beaten Chill Penguin's stage. That leads me to believe no one has actually ever seen what it looks like normally. So here's some extremely rare footage of Flame Mammoth's stage unfrozen. That's the sort of dedication you will only get here. Wow. Subscribe and shit. Anyway, I think that's really cool. The stage normally has lava all over the floor and that freezes over. It's not even the only instance of stages changing depending on the order we take them on. A lot of the fun in Mega Man is using your knowledge of the game to try to optimize your route through it. And this sort of stuff adds a lot of complexity on top of the simple idea of this beady stick beats this robot real good. Mega Man X is such a simple game, with just a few short linear levels. And yet it manages to pack in so much hidden complexity in a way that doesn't feel restrictive or overwhelming in the slightest. This is a game that for years I looked at and thought, yeah, this looks fine I guess, but I don't see what the hype is all about. And now after having actually played it all the way through, the more I think about it, the more impressed I am with just how amazingly well designed it is. The stage itself has conveyor belts, and shit that falls onto conveyor belts. After getting to a lower area, we're supposed to perform a very precise and unintuitive jump in order to break some blocks on the ceiling with X's helmet upgrade. And that leads to the final armor capsule. That grants us the ability to further charge our blaster, as well as to charge boss weapons. This actually unlocks some interesting stuff. I mentioned the ice platform from the ice shotgun before, and Chameleon Sting is also kind of cool. It grants X invulnerability for a few seconds, which has some creative uses. The next room contains some fairly annoying enemies that stand on different levels and throw pickaxes and arches. Kind of reminds me of skeletons in Castlevania, or Hammer Brothers in Super Mario Brothers. We can find a health upgrade as well as a second sub-tank in this room. The boss room is a little further ahead. Flame Mammoth jumps around and causes X to fall on his butt as he lands. He's not hard as long as we keep our distance and make good use of the walls, but I find the fight to be actually pretty engaging. Having to constantly outmaneuver the boss as he tries to corner us makes for compelling gameplay. His actual attacks aren't much of a threat. He shoots fire and some mud I think, but the room is huge and the range is limited, so it's easy to avoid both of them. It takes a while, but he eventually goes down and we get the fire wave. It's a flamethrower that has some use later. Next is Boomer Kuwanger. Boomer. Stupid old people. He's not young and cool like me. It's not like I'm getting dangerously close to 30 myself. 2020 and 2021 didn't count, shut up. Not my favorite stage, I'll be honest. The whole thing takes place in a tower we have to climb. Enemies on platforms, enemies on ladders, these annoying shield guys. These turtles take a lot of hits and are kind of a pain to deal with. Thankfully I remembered a speedrun I saw once and used Storm Eagle's weapon that absolutely destroys them. There's this elevator part that looks a lot worse than it actually is. It always stresses me out, but I don't think I've ever died here. Then we go outside and keep climbing a little more. I don't really see the point of this section, but okay. Before we go back inside, we can see a hard upgrade just above the entrance. This is where the ice shotgun gets to shine. With the arm upgrade, we can charge it to create an ice platform that we can then slide on top of. Jump off at the right time, climb onto the platform, and boom. It's ours. And the boss is just around the corner. The boomer is a weird fight. I wouldn't call it hard by any means. I just have no idea how it works. As long as we keep to the walls, he can't really do anything, but it seems like the more damage he takes, the longer he spends dancing around and vulnerable. I don't know what makes him stop, but eventually he'll try throwing a very ineffective boomerang our way. That's when we shoot. Repeat a trillion times and that's it. The boomerang cutter is good against Chameleon, as stated before, and it also allows us to collect items from afar. It's a good weapon to have. I'm getting tired of thinking up different ways to say next, so spark Mandrill. The level takes place in a power plant. Defeating Storm Eagle will cause his ship to fall on it, causing power outages throughout the stage. It's pretty cool and helps disable some obstacles. The first area is sort of a maze of chambers connected to one another via ladders, and the lights going out every few seconds helps with making it a bit confusing. We can find another sub-tank here, which requires the boomerang to get. In the next area, some firefly robots will occasionally fly horizontally through the screen and leave a trail of light behind them. They're quite fast and can knock X into a pit if we're not careful. It's a cool effect regardless. The mini-boss is a blob thing. It uses electrical attacks if Storm Eagle hasn't been defeated, and the frame rate really doesn't like it, but otherwise it's not very remarkable. There's another hard tank in the next area that we can get by using the boomerang cutter, but I think it's easier to just use a well-timed dash jump off the wall to reach it. I don't really get how the boomerang works if I'm honest. Spark Mandrill himself is easily defeated with the ice shotgun. Just keep freezing him in place and he'll go down very easily. But that's kinda boring. I prefer my Oonga Boonga approach to video games, where I just use the first weapon that was given to me for as long as I possibly can. If you fight him properly, he is actually a cool fight. He is very aggressive and will effectively follow up attacks in ways that cover possible escape routes if we're not careful. Hiding on the walls is not an option here. Not only can the boss jump in X's direction, but also punch the walls to make him fall and shoot electricity balls that will go up and around the room. And there's none of that invincibility bullshit that made Chameleon take forever when fighting with only the Buster. Spark Mandrill's hitbox is always active, so this feels like a very fair fight. Overall pretty good. Electric Spark is the weapon we get from him, and it's good against the next boss we'll be fighting, but I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever actually used it outside of that. It shoots a ball. The charged version shoots a wall in each direction. I'm sure that's good for something, right? Yeah, okay, that's the end of the section. Armored Armadillo, very creative. This one takes place in a mine. Better get used to this stage, we'll be here for a while later. It's kind of cool, relatively complex, lots of gimmicks. The first one is this minecart with a spike. We can ride down this ramp while bats fly down and try to eat our face. One of them is fat and always drops alive. It's made to look like the bats from the classic series. Then we go down a shaft and start getting chased by this roller thing that instantly kills us if we touch it. If we go back to the place where it came from after it blows up, there's a sub-tank there. Then we ride another minecart thing, drop down another shaft, and now we get to chase the roller guy. If we kill it before it can destroy a certain wall, we're rewarded with yet another hard tank. Then we get to ride yet another minecart, and this time there are a bunch of birds that tank the frame rate. It launches us over a cliff, and here's the boss door. Look at that nice background, makes me want to be there. Reminds me of Magna Forest from Xenoblade. Oh, if only waterfalls were real. Mr. Armadillo himself is kind of a mess. He's brain dead easy if we use his weakness, as basically every other boss in the game. He's terrible otherwise. With the electric spark we just shoot at him a few times and yeah, whatever. With the buster he'll often block out shots and send out projectiles in all directions. He attacks by rolling up and doing the DVD logo screen thing, where he goes at 45-degree angles and bounces off walls. I eventually learned he'll first charge dash towards the bottom and then towards the top of the wall X is standing next to. So we need to jump over the first charge and go back to the floor to dodge the second, and so on. He sometimes spends a good while doing this. His other attack is simply shooting out projectiles directly in front of him. I never understood exactly when I was supposed to shoot so as to not get blocked, so I just learned to dodge his response. I called it horrible before, but in retrospect, I think I did have some fun doing it this way. At the very least, it's more interesting than standing in front of him and mashing the attack button for a few seconds. Our reward this time around is the rolling shield. It'll be useful at the very end of the game. And now we're one stage away from the end game. Nice. Launch Octopus. More like... yeah, I don't have anything. It's the underwater level. Yippee. It's funny that this is actually the level that's selected by default when we start the game, because it's certainly not a good one to start with. The underwater distortion effect looks pretty cool. The underwater physics are not bad. X can jump a little higher, it's fine. It doesn't really feel slower or anything. That being said, the enemies here suck. The main attractions are these buffer fish that suck X and have to be blown up from the inside, and these shrimp robots that come out of nowhere and charge at us in groups that take up the whole screen. Then we get to this huge fish thing. I have no idea how you're actually supposed to deal with this mini boss. The fight takes place over these insta-kill spike bits, and the enemy starts sucking in the water, pulling us towards the spikes. I think we're supposed to use the dash to keep away from it, but the space we have to stand on is tiny, so it's really easy to overshoot or undershoot and end up fucking dead. I just use invincibility frames to stand on top of the fish and out DPS it while chugging sub tanks. Yeah, I suck at this game. Here's a clip of me being good at Mega Man ZX to counterbalance it. There's a hard tank here that's pretty convoluted to get. We have to ride this water current upwards to get on a ship, then we have to sink it. It'll open up a hole on the floor that'll lead to a water serpent mini boss that's actually kinda cool, if not a bit easy. This is the one thing in the game I found the weakness of through experimentation. Starmigo's tornado thing absolutely kicks its shit in. It's pretty satisfying. Defeating it will finally allow us to get the tank. And then we have to fight the same serpent again a bit later to actually progress through the level. And that's pretty much it. Octopus dude is weak to the rolling shield. He's kind of a pain even with it. I actually ran out of energy and had to finish him off with the buster. I found that standing at the opposite side of the room to him and using level 1 charge shots to get rid of his projectiles while slowly chipping away at his health bar worked. He'd occasionally jump towards X, at which point we'd have to dash under him and repeat the process. He can also occasionally start this whirlpool that pulls X towards him and that we have to dash away from. He's invulnerable during this, and I think it should be pretty clear at this point what I think of bosses becoming invulnerable, especially when they already take forever to kill in the first place. He shits out the homing torpedo. It homes in on enemies as the name subtly implies. And that was the final stage available. We got a brief cutscene where Zero tells us the Fortress of Sigma, the game's main villain, has been found. And with that, we can now go finish the game. But before that, we should do some cleaning up. Getting every upgrade in the game will allow us to get a final super mysterious, super secret ability that no one knows about, and that I'm about to share with you, so I hope you can keep it secret. Are you alone? No one else in the room? Come closer. This is top secret shit. It's probably somewhere in the Epstein files and has been redacted or something. Did you know you can get the Hadouken from Street Fighter in this game? Yeah, it's true. I bet I just blew your fucking mind. Going back to Armored Armadillo's stage and jumping onto this cliff by the boss door, and intentionally dying for a total of 5 times while having every other upgrade in the game will cause one more upgrade capsule to appear. From it we get the Hadouken ability. It's performed by inputting the same combination as you would in Street Fighter. A quarter circle forward followed by the attack button. It kills almost every enemy in the game including bosses in one hit, but can only be performed when you have full health. That means it's actually a little hard to use effectively, but it's still cool. Well, we're now going into Sigma's fortress. But just what the fuck is a Sigma? Zero mentioned after the intro stage that he'd scout for Sigma's fortress, but that's about the extent of the information the game gives us directly. The intro cutscene tells us about X's backstory and how he's the first machine capable of thinking and making his own decisions, but nothing about Sigma. You see, Mega Man X came out at a time where it was still somewhat common practice to take away a game's story in the manual. Nowadays it's pretty easy to find this information, but the game itself doesn't really tell us shit about what's even going on this entire time, and I'm not a big fan of that. As it turns out, Sigma is the former leader of a band of Raploids, that is humanoid robots, called the Maverick Hunters. They would, as the name implies, hunt down Mavericks, which are crazed robots that attack humans, until he went Maverick himself. Our whole objective throughout the game was to hunt down him and his gang. Of course, it's a side-scrolling action platformer, we don't need an excuse to go right and shoot anything in our path, but I don't really see why we couldn't have Zero just briefly mention this in game. Whatever, pew pew shooty shoot the robot, that's what matters here, I guess. Sigma's fortress consists of 4 stages. It's pretty climactic. We start outside the fortress, overlooking the city at sunset. Zero tells X they should split up. Oh boy, that's totally gonna work out just fine. Definitely. Battlefield turtles and flying platforms is the entrance. And I mean, it looks pretty big, I don't know why Zero took so long to find it. Not too deep inside we find Vile. And he has captured Zero, what a surprise. It's up to us to prove how far we've gotten by beating her, and he kicks her ass again. That was unexpected. Zero breaks free and pulls a fucking Chaozu to destroy Vile's mech suit. That's kind of pathetic actually. I expected more of you, Zero. Anyway, now we have to actually beat Vile. He flies around, can paralyze X, and shoots all sorts of projectiles with different effects. It's actually kind of overwhelming. It doesn't help that I immediately missed my Hadouken and got hit. Turns out this move is not going to be much of a get out of jail free card after all. Luckily I have a trillion sub-tanks, so I don't have to be good at the game. We find Zero on the ground just ahead. He entrusts the mission to destroy Sigma to X and totally fucking dies for real forever, and he will never ever come back. You'd expect the stage to end after such a climactic moment, but it just keeps going past some laser sensors and ball and chain dudes with the shields on a vertical shaft where the most annoying fucking flying enemies keep harassing us as we try to climb up the walls in what is possibly the most aggravating platforming section in the game. And after all that, we now get to the part where we're expected to defeat every single stage boss in the game again. I guess this works as a way to show how strong we've gotten and how easy all of these guys are actually when you use their weaknesses against them. And it works. Boomer Kuwanger down. Then we have to refuel our sub-tanks and fight a new boss. The spider thing that works like that game where it follows the path down. It's pretty annoying. I hate it. That's the end of Sigma 1. Sigma 2 starts with some platforming over bottomless pits right into a rematch with Chill Penguin. And done. Next is a mech suit section right into another annoying vertical climbing section that leads outside to a rematch with Storm Eagle. Third one down. A few more ball and chain guys later and we get to another new boss. It's a fucking giant face. It consists of 2 eyes and a nose we have to destroy. This is the first fight in the game that's actually designed to be fought almost entirely while holding onto the walls. Eventually the walls will close in, leaving only a pit of spikes on the floor. It's creative, I like it. On to Sigma 3. This one doesn't waste much time. 1 turtle down and we're already up against Armored Armadillo again. Done. Then it's Chameleon almost immediately after. 5 out of 8. Spark Mandrill down, and Launch Octopus down. Flame Mammoth is the last one, and done. This stage is pretty much just a boss rush. And finally we get another new boss. It's a tank car thing. It's Hadoukenable, but I'm far too shit to hit it with it. By the way, I didn't use the Hadouken to beat even a single boss so far. It's totally because I didn't want to ruin the experience and not because I'm complete trash at the game, I swear. Speaking of it, isn't this kinda cool? The game giving out such an overpowered move, but making it kind of awkward to use, so crap players such as not me. I'm great, I'm just not using it to make the game interesting. So a player who's theoretically crap will actually have an easier time just doing it normally. You need to be good at the game in order to break it. I like it. Oh yeah, we're still at this car boss thing. To be honest, I don't really care much for it. Sigma 4, pretty iconic stage for how simple it is. It's just a shaft leading up to the final boss. The only enemies are these little worms infinitely coming out of holes in the wall. They're only here so we can fill up our sub-tanks with the charged rolling shield before attempting the boss. boss. It's some more forward thinking from this game, a convenient way to replenish resources before a boss fight. I would have preferred something faster like an actual recharge station, but it's better than nothing. As it is, it does get pretty old after you die to Sigma for the 30th time and have to grind to refill your sub-tanks again. The music here is also really unsettling, really sort of sells this atmosphere of dread. Sigma has 3 phases. The first one is just his dog, so I guess he only actually has 2. Fido here jumps all over the place and is weak to the ice shotgun. He's pretty aggressive and can shoot fire and ice from his mouth. With 4 sub-tanks, he's not hard to take down, but since he's the first in a marathon of 3 fights, and dying in any of them means starting over, this fight turns into a matter of taking him down while preserving as many resources as possible. We're doing something cheeky for the next fight. As we finish kicking the hacking wholesome Paparino's face in, I'm gonna use one of our sub-tanks. Sigma himself now decides to take on X. He has his monologue, who gives a shit, I'm sure it's very original. He throws away his cape, turns on his lightsaber, and boom. Hadouken, bitch. Yeah, I bet you thought I was going to do this properly. If we just shoot the Hadouken right as the fight starts, it'll always hit him. Fucking it up does mean fighting him for Rio, and at that point my chances of beating the final form after that start looking pretty grim. So we just Hadouken him right in the face. Sigma's head floats up and now he's a huge robot thing stuck on the wall. This is easily the hardest boss in the game. Only Sigma's face is vulnerable, and the only way we can reach it is by jumping on one of his hands that are floating around and riding it up. They shoot lightning from both sides though, so staying up there is not really feasible. The best weapon here is a rolling shield, but it doesn't really do much damage anyway. The lightning strikes keep coming throughout the fight and he'll occasionally spit fire and balls of electricity. There are no safe zones. Sometimes he'll refuse to bring his hands down for what feels like minutes, leaving us with no way to damage him. This is why we need our sub-tanks. It's a battle of attrition, and once again, dying here takes us back to the shaft. He does go down eventually, but it wasn't easy, and with that, the game is over. X overlooks Sigma's fortress going down from a cliff like it's Castlevania. Text starts scrolling over the night sky as somber music plays. It doesn't say congratulations or you're winner. Instead, it narrates X's thoughts at that moment. It's an introspective moment where the color-coded silly robot guy actually thinks about the destruction of war and how he's also responsible for it. And it does land. I really did not expect this level of introspection from a Super Nintendo game. Even over 30 years later, I was kind of taken aback by this ending. This little moment does wonders to characterize X as more than a silly robot guy. He actually has a personality. He actually has an inner monologue. The game itself doesn't do a great job of telling the story of X and Zero's conflict with Sigma, but it does tell a complete story. The story of X himself, how he's a machine capable of thought, and how he himself reaches the conclusion that violence is futile. Then it gets kinda silly again with the brilliant piece of writing that is, maybe only the X-Buster on his hand knows for sure. ... So, in the end, what do I think of Mega Man X? I think what it really comes down to is, Mega Man X is an extremely tight game. Everything in it fits neatly where it should, and every piece helps elevate the whole. It's not a game that impresses right away. It looks a lot less interesting than it actually is, but it doesn't take long at all to grip the player. I think the way progression works in this game is absolutely perfect. It's a short game, and I think that works to its advantage. At face value, making a long game is a lot harder than making a short one. Obviously, a longer runtime means more assets, more level design, and so on. But making a short game that's worth playing for as long as you would a longer game takes more than that. It takes smart, elegant design, and few games really nail that. Mega Man X is a game that's infinitely replayable. It's a game I feel I could play every day and not get tired of. All of its systems lend themselves to that. As soon as I think about starting it up, my mind immediately starts racing, thinking of what route I should take, which upgrades I will go for first. Mega Man X with its 8 short levels feels more open and complex than many Metroidvanias that pride themselves in that sort of design. This game really has a way to live rent-free on your head when you start playing it, and it has a tendency to squat there long after you've beaten it. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching, especially if you made it to the end. It really means a lot. If you did, hopefully it means you enjoyed it, so you should subscribe. If you hated it and still made it to the end, then remember to leave a comment telling me how much of an idiot I am. You can leave nice comments too otherwise. There's a lot more to come, so look forward to that. So I thought of a really witty outro yesterday in the shower, but I didn't write it down and forgot it, so this is what you get. Sorry.